The Clone Wars does something the prequel films never had the time or structural freedom to accomplish. It makes Anakin Skywalker legible before he becomes monstrous. Instead of presenting him as a volatile figure rushing toward doom, the series allows him to exist first as a capable Jedi, a respected commander, and a trusted presence in the lives of others. This reframing does not soften his fall, it sharpens it. Tragedy only works when something valuable is lost, and the Clone Wars finally shows us what the galaxy loses when Anakin disappears. For the first time, Anakin is allowed to be competent on screen in a sustained and convincing way. He plans effectively, adapts under pressure, and wins battles that matter. Clone troopers follow him not out of obligation, but out of confidence. Fellow Jedi defer to his instincts because they work. This repeated demonstration of effectiveness retroactively validates the faith others place in him during the films. He is not trusted because the script demands it. He is trusted because the audience watches him earn it. This competence fundamentally changes how his later failures are perceived. When Anakin struggles, it feels like a disruption rather than a baseline. The fall's no longer from a shaky foundation, but from a position of proven strength. The Clone Wars establishes that Anakin is not merely powerful, he is reliable, and that reliability makes his eventual betrayal far more destabilizing. Losing a liability is relief, losing an asset is catastrophe. Likeability is the second crucial repair the series performs. Anakin is allowed humor, warmth, and confidence without immediately being punished for it. He jokes with Obi-Wan, connects easily with others, and carries himself with a natural charisma that explains his influence. This charm is not superficial, it is functional. People want to be around him, fight beside him, and believe in him. His fall therefore registers as loss rather than inevitability. This emotional accessibility reframes audience response. Instead of waiting for Anakin to fail, viewers begin to root for him to survive himself. His darkness becomes something to worry about, not something to endure. The Clone Wars transforms his flaws from irritants into warning signs. That shift alone recalibrates the entire tragedy. Time is the series' most powerful tool. Years of storytelling allow Anakin to grow incrementally rather than lurch between emotional extremes. Relationships develop, strain, recover, and strain again. Decisions echo across seasons. Consequences accumulate slowly. This temporal breathing room replaces the abruptness of the films with a sense of lived progression. Anakin does not snap, he erodes. Because the story unfolds across so much time, anger becomes contextual rather than constant. Anakin is not perpetually seething. His rage emerges under pressure, loss, or perceived injustice. Most of the time, he functions as a capable and even measured leader. This contrast is essential. When anger appears, it feels alarming precisely because it is not always present. The darkness intrudes rather than dominates. This framing restores psychological realism. People do not live at emotional extremes indefinitely. They oscillate, compartmentalize, and rationalize. The Clone Wars captures this rhythm. Anakin can be compassionate in one episode and ruthless in the next without contradiction. His instability lies not in constant fury, but in how easily circumstances can push him there. Arrogance, too, is reframed as earned confidence. Anakin is cocky because he succeeds. His instincts are validated repeatedly by outcomes. When he disobeys orders and wins, the story reinforces his self-trust. This matters because it explains why he stops listening to caution. The galaxy keeps teaching him that he is right. Over time, humility becomes harder to justify. This earned confidence also complicates the Jedi response to him. Their warnings feel abstract compared to his tangible results. When the Council lectures restraint while Anakin delivers victory, the tension becomes structural rather than personal. The Clone Wars sets up a conflict between philosophy and performance, and Anakin stands firmly on the side of what works. Crucially, this does not absolve him, it contextualizes him. The series does not excuse his worst impulses, it shows how they are cultivated. Each success achieved through aggression reinforces the belief that restraint is weakness. Each compromise justified by results makes the next compromise easier. The fall begins not with evil, but with efficacy. By the time the series reaches its midpoint, Anakin no longer feels like a man waiting to turn, but a man being shaped continuously by environment, reward, and expectation. His identity is no longer singular. He is a hero, a general, a friend, and a threat, all at once. The tragedy emerges from the impossibility of reconciling these roles within the Jedi framework. The Clone Wars therefore supplies the missing context the films imply but never earn. It turns Anakin from a narrative function into a character shaped by time. His flaws stop feeling like plot requirements and start feeling like accumulated habits. This shift does not change the destination, but it makes the journey coherent. As this context deepens, the series begins to introduce the emotional and institutional pressures that will make Anakin's final transformation feel not sudden, but frighteningly logical. The groundwork laid by competence, trust, and reward prepares the stage for a fall that no longer feels arbitrary. And at the center of that slow collapse stands one relationship that changes everything, forcing Anakin to confront attachment not as theory, but as daily reality. The introduction of Ahsoka as Anakin Padawan becomes the single most important structural addition the Clone Wars makes to his arc, because it forces his inner conflict into constant contact with responsibility. Training a student transforms attachment from a forbidden concept into a daily reality. Anakin is no longer just breaking rules for love in secret, he is modeling behavior for someone who depends on him. Every choice carries consequences beyond himself. The series quietly positions this relationship as the emotional pressure point that makes everything else inevitable. Ahsoka mirrors Anakin in ways that are both affirming and terrifying. She is talented, impulsive, confident, and emotionally open. He sees himself in her successes and his worst fears in her failures. Protecting her becomes indistinguishable from protecting his own sense of worth. This attachment does not corrupt him instantly, but it conditions him to prioritize outcomes over process. When she is safe, the method feels justified. Through Ahsoka, Anakin learns that love and fear cannot be neatly separated. Every mission becomes personal, because loss is now imaginable in concrete terms. The Jedi warning against attachment stops being philosophical and starts feeling disconnected from lived experience. Anakin does not reject their teachings out of arrogance alone. He rejects them because they do not account for the reality he inhabits every day. The more he succeeds as a mentor, the more alien the Jedi ideal becomes. The Jedi Council role in this erosion is shown repeatedly and uncomfortably. Their distrust of Anakin is not subtle, and it is often unjustified in the moment. They question his judgment even after success. They assign him responsibility without granting him trust. Over time, this creates a feedback loop where Anakin feels scrutinized rather than supported. Suspicion becomes a constant backdrop to his service. What the Clone Wars does differently is show these failures rather than relying on implication. Council decisions have consequences. Their rigidity produces collateral damage. Their moral caution often arrives after opportunity has passed. Anakin is repeatedly placed in situations where decisive action saves lives and restraint costs them. Each of these moments chips away at his faith in the institution meant to guide him. The war itself becomes the great accelerant. The Clone Wars normalize behavior that would otherwise be alarming. Aggression is rewarded. Ruthlessness is reframed as efficiency. Rule-breaking is tolerated as long as it produces results. Anakin thrives in this environment because it aligns with his instincts. The galaxy teaches him that effectiveness matters more than obedience, and the lesson is reinforced daily. In war, hesitation is punished, and initiative is praised. Anakin internalizes this logic completely. He learns that moral ambiguity is not only survivable but useful. This conditioning blurs the line between necessary brutality and personal anger. When violence becomes routine, intention matters less than outcome. The dark side stops feeling like corruption and starts feeling like adaptation. Every time Anakin disobeys orders and wins, the lesson deepens. Authority becomes conditional. Rules become negotiable. Trust shifts inward. He begins to see himself as the final arbiter of right action because the evidence supports that belief. This is not a sudden rejection of the Jedi, it is a gradual reorientation away from them. Loyalty erodes quietly before it breaks loudly. The tragedy lies in the fact that Anakin is often correct in the short term. His choices save lives. His instincts end conflicts. His defiance produces victory. The Clone Wars makes this explicit, forcing the audience to grapple with the uncomfortable truth that effectiveness and morality do not always align. Anakin is not punished immediately for crossing lines. He is rewarded, promoted, and praised. This reward structure makes his eventual fall feel earned rather than imposed. By the time Palpatine offers an alternative framework, Anakin has already been living by it. The Sith do not introduce a new philosophy. They validate the one he has been practicing under Jedi sanction. The transition is not ideological whiplash, it is confirmation. He is not becoming someone else, he is becoming fully himself. By the end of the Clone Wars, Darth Vader no longer feels like a shocking transformation. He feels like the logical endpoint of accumulated choices. The mask does not create the monster, it reveals the one that has been forming under pressure and permission. Anakin Fall is not about one moment of weakness, it is about years of reinforcement. The series removes randomness from the equation entirely. Importantly, this does not absolve Anakin of responsibility. Explanation is not exoneration. The Clone Wars does not argue that he had no choice. It shows how his choices became easier to justify over time. Each compromise lowers the cost of the next. Each success achieved through darkness makes the light feel inefficient. Tragedy emerges from familiarity, not surprise. This reframing strengthens the entire saga retroactively. Darth Vader becomes not a villain who turned, but a hero who adapted too well to a broken system. His rage is no longer inexplicable, it is conditioned. His obedience to Palpatine is no longer blind, it is pragmatic. The Clone Wars gives Vader a history that feels lived rather than scripted. The final effect is devastating in its clarity. When Anakin falls, it does not feel like fate intervening. It feels like gravity completing its work. The series builds a slope rather than a cliff. By the time he reaches the edge, momentum has already decided the outcome. The tragedy is not that he falls, but that so many moments existed where a different reward structure might have changed everything. In this way, the Clone Wars accomplishes something rare. It preserves the inevitability of Anakin's fate while removing its arbitrariness. The fall becomes coherent, cumulative, and emotionally grounded. Darth Vader is no longer a twist, he is a consequence. And that consequence is shaped not by destiny alone, but by war, mentorship, institutional failure, and a galaxy that taught the wrong lessons too well.
Thank you for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that share button. My main channel is Critical Analysis Hub, where I post Star Wars content about the movies. My secondary channel is Critical Analysis Hub Plus, where I focus on the shows of Star Wars. And my third channel is Critical Analysis Hub XP, where I post comic books. Be sure to take a moment and check them out. Thanks, and may the Force be with you.